your teenage years it's the second most rapid time of growth in your life. So you've got from age 0 to 2 is the most rapid growth in anybody's life, right? Like a little baby is born and they triple their birth weight in a year, which is like massive. Think about your weight right now. And if in 1 year you just tripled it, like that's massive, right? So 0 to 2 is like incredibly important for development and growth. And then like throughout childhood, it's like this steady growth, but then it's your teenage years. That's where we see super rapid growth again in height, in stature, in bone content, in muscles, and growing hormones. And this is also where male and female starts to differentiate. So as far as like health and training and nutrition goes, like there's really no differences between boys and girls until we hit puberty. That's when some changes happen. So that's going to be around your teenage years. That could be between like, as young as 10 to 13 for the start of puberty, but puberty itself is a few years long to really complete that process. So let's say you start puberty at 12, you might not finish it as a girl until like 16, 17. So your whole teen years as an active female athlete, your nutrition is being influenced by the fact that you're going through puberty and this is the second most rapid time period of growth in your entire life. And that is why, when it comes down to it, why enough calories and enough protein is so incredibly important, because of all the growth that's happening. So that's important for any teenager, but now we add on your training on top of it. And the teenagers of today are training quite a lot and quite seriously. I mean, I remember back in my day, by high school, I was training 20 hours a week, and I wasn't even like, I was a good athlete, but there's girls out there now, and girls and boys out there now that are like doing way more intensely, or specializing, or they're committing to college in their junior year. Like, it's just like, I think that the intensity of sports has really ramped up. So we see this convergence of, hey, nutrients and growth and development is so important during this time period of life, but also I'm expending so much through sport. Also, I'm trying to build muscle. I'm not just trying to build for growth. I'm trying to build for sport. That's where we just need a lot of calories. And there's actually no good like equation, because research and studies on a younger population is more complicated ethically. So we don't have any, like when we look up how many calories do I need in a day, and we do these equations based off height, weight, gets a lot more tricky with a teen athlete because they're still growing. What is their end height? We can't just input that into an equation. So we have some guidelines that maybe a female teen athlete might need between 2,200 up to 4,000 calories. That's a huge range, right? And then when are you going through a growth spurt? You might go through a growth spurt for 3 months. And during times of growth spurt, which you can't identify, oh, it's happening today. You don't know when it's happening. It's kind of in hindsight. Oh my gosh, I just grew 2 inches, right? It's in hindsight. But during growth spurts, teen athletes might need an extra like 500 calories a day just to accommodate for the growth spurt. That's an entire extra meal. Right. And so even though I can't give great guidance on a podcast as to how many calories somebody should eat, I just want to stress the importance of enough calories during this time period. And how are we going to get enough calories? It's going to be through eating full, complete meals, not skipping meals, having some snacks. And, but these are also, it gets into like, this is where teenagers struggle. They're sleeping in because they're tired and then rushing off to school without getting breakfast or having a bar for breakfast. It's like, we're already behind. Or our snacks are like a package of goldfish. Like, that's not going to cut it, right? So that's where like I really want to stress that we do need enough calories with like complete meals, not skipping meals, packing snacks, being intentional. And then to extend beyond that, where do we want our calories from? Well, we do want a little bit of everything, of course, but protein needs actually are higher in teenagers compared to, let's say, an adult population. I'm going to throw some numbers out here, and I don't mean to be confusing, but I just kind of want to highlight it. So the recommended dietary allowance for protein in adults is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, which in my experience as a dietitian, I've never had that work for anybody. It's far too low. Like that's such a small amount of protein, and that's never worked. Definitely not for athletes. So sports nutrition guidelines are going to be more like maybe 1.4 to 1.8 grams per kilogram. But as a sports dietitian, I've also had many scenarios where I'm recommending like 2 grams per kilogram, maybe even 2.2 grams per kilogram. There's been a few unique scenarios of even higher protein amounts as well. So for athletes, we are going to recommend those higher amounts. And I'll say just for general population, I would recommend a higher amount than 0.8 grams per kilogram as well. But now we look at teenagers. What do teenagers need? Flat out, not even being an athlete, 2 grams per kilogram per day.
Wow.
So that just goes to show, because of how much growth and development they're doing, the fact that they need that protein to build their muscle, to build their hormones, to support their bone growth. Not even being an athlete, you need 2 grams per kilogram. That's like the amount that we normally recommend for an athlete, adult athlete, right? So that really highlights how much growth is going on. And again, actually, I did the math earlier just so I wouldn't choke up doing math while I was talking to you, but I'm just going to throw numbers out there because grams per kilogram. So if you have a teenager that's 100 pounds, 2 grams per kilogram would be about 90 grams of protein a day. If you have a teenager that's 150 pounds, it would be around 136 grams of protein a day. Meat in the middle, 125 pounds, 113 grams of protein. So you can kind of see, obviously, we've got a wide range of weights. And again, teenagers are growing, so that number can change. But I'm throwing that out there because to me as a sports dietitian, and maybe to you as well, Erica, as an adult, like 90 to 136 grams of protein a day might sound normal. Mm-hmm. But again, we think about, well, what are teenagers usually doing? And like I mentioned before, they're maybe skipping breakfast or like school lunch, having packaged snacks. They're probably not getting enough protein. And so I think this is really important to highlight, that we do need to make an intentional effort to get some more quality protein in these teen athlete diets in order to get what they need for sport and for their normal growth and development. I'll pause because I just rambled quite